So why women?
Well, so did very much realize that anytime I visited the country, um, so many of my female friends, I realized
Mm-hmm.
struggle to get job opportunities back in Ghana.
Mm.
For whatever reason, I get the impression that it's kind of like a patriarchal environment where sort of men sort of get the first, opportunities. Men are sort of
Mm.
given the nod as compared to women generally.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to STEM subjects, oftentimes I felt there was this kind of bias in them in back home where it was kind of like a lot of people associated those subjects or areas to males.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
as there was just that there wasn't a lot of interest for females to want to pursue these courses just by virtue of the fact that maybe they considered that it was too difficult or they didn't get that kind of exposure or early
Mm-hmm.
upbringing to be able to help them be confident or have enough role models to help them, pursue these type of path. There wasn't enough representation basically, and
Mm-hmm.
so I felt
Mm-hmm.
just being the problem solver that I am, I just felt this was something that I needed to address, and then I took it
Mm-hmm.
like hands on and just decided to try to mold a solution to solve this problem I observed in society basically.
Is it a tech podcast? Well, technically, yes. This is the show for current and future techies who are curious about exploring the world of tech. You'll get to hear from exciting guests, highlighting the diversity of roles and careers within the space, how you can get started, but also the life that comes along with it before, during, and after. My name is Stella, and this is the Technically Yes podcast. Hello, hello. Welcome back to the Technically Yes podcast. I'm your host, Stella. And today is a very special episode for me. I am super excited to be here. I am joined by a friend of mine, Carl, that is doing some amazing things in the tech space, in my humble opinion, and really changing the way we view tech and who we expect to sort of be in this space. So I'm super excited to have him here today. Thank you so much for joining me, Carl.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Stella. So it's great
Of
to
course.
connect with you.
Of course, pleasure's all mine. So this is actually our second time recording together. The first time we recorded, it was sort of like a group session. I believe there was like five of us in total. So I'm really excited to have this one-on-one time with you to delve a little bit deeper into how you got here. You're working on some really amazing things, and I don't want to reveal too much. I kind of want to leave that to you to share with my listeners on what it is that you're doing. So if you don't mind, if introduce yourself, tell us who you are.
Okay, so thank you once again. My name is Carl Asamoah, and I'm originally from Ghana. I currently reside in the UK, and I'm doing a PhD in finance. I'm the founder of a non-profit organization or social enterprise by name SisCode or SisCode for short. And basically, what my organization aims to do is to be able to empower young females from underrepresented backgrounds or underprivileged backgrounds. And we try to empower them by promoting digital literacy of these young individuals, mainly in primary schools. So these are girls in primary school in Ghana. We also work
Mm-hmm.
with university students, female university, so both male and female university students who have a technical background and are looking to be able to pursue long-term career goals in tech. So I would say these are like the main aspects of my organization. And yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of sums it up about me and what I do.
Yeah, and that's amazing. I mean, it's incredible what you do. For those who don't know, I got connected with Carl when I was in Ghana in 2022. I spent a couple of months down there, and while I was down there, I attended a lot of different tech events, networking events. Like, I think at this point, if you've been listening to the podcast, you know I love a good networking event. That's like one of my favorite things to do. So even when on vacation, I attend networking events, and that's where I met Carl, and he told me a little bit about what he was doing, and I was like, this is like we have to get connected. I'm so passionate about not only bringing people into tech, but women into the tech space. I feel like there's just not a lot of us. There's not enough of us, and what you're doing is truly incredible. So help us understand, how did you, I mean, you're doing a PhD in finance. How did SisCode even come about? Like, what sparked that
Uh,
idea?
okay, so I've always loved technology growing up, and
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I see myself working in tech full time very soon. But I
Nice.
would say from a career perspective or even educational perspective, I never really delved into the field for, maybe just lack of exposure, right? Even for myself,
Mm,
someone who has always loved the space. Um, and being able to travel to the UK, I observed that there were a lot of opportunities, especially employment opportunities in technology. And technology, naturally, in this part of the world is very much advanced. And
mm-hmm.
being someone who's coming from the continent, I realized that a lot of the youth back home struggle to get like work opportunities, right? And I kind
Yeah.
of linked it to the fact that, most of them are not exposed to tech in general. And I felt like there's this kind of divide, right? More so with females. So during the pandemic, I guess like most people, I had a lot of time on my hands. And I always had kind
Mm-hmm.
of this urge or burning desire to start something like, to start like an organization, right? I'll say I've always been an entrepreneurial. So I've just been doing some small bits of trade here and there, but I felt like, okay, maybe this is the time to give this a go. And I did. So I went all in and yeah, I just felt like, okay, let me see if I can start something that can sort of help the youth to be able to give them
Mm-hmm.
more exposure, training, opportunities basically. And starting off, it wasn't too clear what I was doing, like most
Okay.
like most entrepreneurs, but just experimenting, iterating, consulting with a lot of people, experiencing on the daily. I guess, at this point in time, things have become much clearer. And our main focus is to work with primary school girls, and primary schools, providing infrastructure, tech infrastructure, and IT
Mm-hmm.
training. And then working with university students in terms of being able to give them work opportunities, so internships, remote
Mm-hmm.
internships, to be able to sort of expose them to, their the work environment, to be able to pick up skills that will make them ready by the time they are done with university. So that kind of
Mm-hmm.
sums my journey getting here. So I've always loved technology. I still very much do. I would say I'm very tech savvy. I'm a big tech enthusiast. I'm always attending tech conferences and always trying to sort of hop onto the latest technology trends. It just so
Mm-hmm.
happens that I haven't built a career in it yet, or I would say I've even kind of built a career because I started like a tech non-profit, but I would say
Mm-hmm.
I haven't like mainstream. I'm not kind of working in a mainstream tech role or having sort of pursued um, a technical degree or training or
Mm-hmm.
certification.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm very, very close to the field, all in all.
That's amazing. So why women?
Well, so I did very much realize that anytime I visited the country, um, so many of my female friends, I realized,
Mm-hmm.
struggle to get job opportunities back in Ghana.
Mm.
For whatever reason, I get the impression that it's kind of like a patriarchal environment where sort of men sort of get the first, opportunities. Men are sort of
Mm.
given the nod as compared to women generally.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like with when it comes to STEM subjects, oftentimes I felt there was this kind of bias in them in back home where it was kind of like a lot of people associated those subjects or areas to males.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
as there was just that there wasn't a lot of interest for females to want to pursue these courses just by virtue of the fact that maybe they considered that it was too difficult or they didn't get that kind of exposure or early
Mm-hmm.
upbringing to be able to help them be confident or have enough role models to help them, pursue these type of paths. So I
Mm-hmm.
observed it. I realized that there was a lot of there was a huge gap. A lot of young people, females, were not really in the field. There wasn't enough
Mm-hmm.
representation, basically. And
Mm-hmm.
seeing that. that kind of put a lot of young women in situations of desperation because it's like, most of them, go to university and they don't consider technical subjects. And it so happens that a lot of the job opportunities today are technically inclined. So you realize that
Mm-hmm.
I realized that, or I observed that, by the time they are out of university, most of the degrees that they come out with are not competitive enough. So
Mm.
a lot of them are home and are unemployed, and it just sort of leaves them in a state of despair and very little opportunities. So I felt
Mm-hmm.
just being the problem solver that I am, I just felt this was something that I needed to address. And then I took it
Mm-hmm.
like hands on and just decided to try to mold a solution to solve this problem I observed in society, basically.
Nice. That's amazing. I love
Yeah.
that. I love to hear it. And it's like, I completely agree with you. There definitely is a gap that we have experienced in the tech space. So it's nice to see that you're bridging that gap and making it smaller by, yeah, encouraging other girls to get into tech. There's so many opportunities. Now, in doing this, I mean, starting SisCode it's incredible what you've done. What are some of the challenges that you've found that you've encountered along the way? Are you getting the support that you'd hoped for when you initially kind of had this idea?
Um, I would say it's been very challenging and it still very much
Mm,
is. I would say for me, one of the things I do recall, or one of the things that I observe greatly is me being a male founder promoting
mm-hmm,
a cause for females. Firstly, is something that is not very common.
mm,
So I have observed that a lot of initiatives today that are available to support entrepreneurs or founders like myself are sort of ripe for females, right?
mm,
So
mm-hmm,
even though the work I'm doing is trying to empower females, because I am a male founder, there are a lot of opportunities or support that I do not qualify for because
mm,
I'm
okay,
male.
okay.
So
Mm-hmm,
that is
mm-hmm,
one of the main things I have sort of observed or experienced since
mm,
starting. So that's been quite challenging. And I will also say maybe it's also because I'm maybe doing like a full-time PhD, so that's very time consuming. I'm
mm-hmm.
not able to run the organization in a full-time capacity as I would want because for
Okay.
our line of work in the non-profit space, a lot of the stuff you can get is based on relationships. So
Yeah.
example, i.e., we are having this conversation today because we met somewhere and we built a relationship. So it's very, very
Mm-hmm,
evident in this space. And to be able to get these opportunities, you need to be out there, you need to be interacting, you need to be engaging, right?
mm-hmm.
People really need to know what you're doing. But in my
Yeah.
circumstance, because my PhD is very demanding, it limits my ability to do so. And even though
Mm-hmm,
you can delegate and try to get people to do that on your behalf. Most entities want to engage with the founder or the
mm-hmm.
visionary or the
Yeah.
CEO, like the person who is really behind the the
Yeah.
the the cause,
The mission.
People,
Yeah. Yeah.
yes, people like to do that. Also,
Mm-hmm,
I would say, yeah, I mean, just like any business starting, it's always very difficult because you don't have a lot of like funding. So
mm-hmm,
you have to be very frugal. You have to be very lean in your dealings. And by doing so, it
mm-hmm.
sort of limits your reach because,
Yeah.
most of the things you might even be doing, there might be instances where they might be out of pocket. And
Mm-hmm.
if you are not coming from a space where maybe you have enough funding, like maybe you've worked for X number of years, you have X
Mm-hmm.
amount of savings, which you feel, okay, I want to invest maybe this amount into this venture, and maybe long term, I believe it will pay off, right? I
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately don't have that kind of luxury. So
Mm-hmm.
there are a lot of things that we could be doing that could really put us out there that at the moment we are unable to do. For example, I'm not
Mm-hmm.
able to really hire people on a full-time basis, right? Because um, I have this kind of reservation that I wouldn't want to bring someone in and then maybe I can't, it won't be sustainable, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it just kind of limits the ability to really get things done quickly
Yeah.
and at a faster rate, because it's like you and just a small group of people are just managing and just trying, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll
Mm-hmm.
say these are some of my challenges, and I'll just say, uh, the non-profit sector in Ghana is not very, um, what's the word? It's not very, I would say, mature.
Okay.
What do I mean by my mature? Um, Even though there are organizations that are very, like, there are a lot of foreign aid type organizations that are in the country, you realize what I have
Mm-hmm.
observed, that those that are doing extremely well in most cases have like a foreign office. So they are an international
Ah, okay.
organization and they set up a branch in
Mm-hmm.
Ghana. So the international organization funds the local organization,
Yeah.
and then so just from the get-go they have funding, they have everything to sort of just
Mm-hmm.
get them off the ground. So unlike here in the West, where a lot of people believe in charity, a lot of governments
Yeah.
set aside a lot of initiatives and funds for charities, local charities,
Mm-hmm.
we don't really have that back in Ghana. So I'm
Yeah.
unable to really tap on government funding or stakeholder funding back home.
Mm-hmm.
And that is
Mm-hmm.
something that's, so even if you want to fundraise and things like that, it's really challenging. The few instances where you could get funding is where it's maybe life and death type situations, where it's like maybe someone is going for a surgery, or there's something like that where you can get the media
Mm-hmm.
to sort of like make the story very emotional and you
Mm-hmm.
get people involved.
Yeah.
But like something like this where in quote people feel no one is dying, they'll be like they'll be fine.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. Yeah. It's that
it's
attitude of like they'll make it, they'll
yeah,
figure it
yeah.
out. Yeah.
So
Okay.
it's really getting a lot of stakeholders and interest to be able to sort of come on board to
Mm-hmm.
help drive the mission. It's something that has been very difficult, all in all.
Okay, okay. Yeah, yeah, that's fair. That's fair. So, what is your like, how do you currently ensure that SysCode is well known, that you are getting that funding, that you are getting support? What's your main method there? Is it the networking as you mentioned earlier?
Um, Yeah, networking, wherever I get the opportunity, I talk about my
Mm-hmm.
organization. I try to leverage
Mm-hmm.
social media to the best of my abilities. So we have
Mm-hmm.
like a vibrant Instagram page, where I try to keep it very active and I post a lot. And I'm really growing our organic following. And I'm doing so
Nice.
by currently Cisco is heavily invested in helping young people get foreign internships.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm putting a lot of word out. I'm sharing our flyers digitally. So people keep
Mm-hmm.
reposting because a lot of people want job opportunities. So
Yeah.
the job advertisements are on our website. So anybody who is interested visits the website to see, okay, oh, okay, so this is SisCode. Oh, this is what they do. These are the jobs they've got. So that's given us like I'm seeing a lot of rapid organic growth in recent
Nice.
time. And then entrepreneurs too, because we are targeting foreign entrepreneurs, so UK-based entrepreneurs who are looking to hire interns
Mm-hmm.
back in Ghana. So for them,
Mm-hmm.
so even if the person is not ready to hire, they are interested. Okay, wow, this is not really like a common concept. Okay, I want to learn more.
Yeah.
So they also kind of follow the link and then they read on about organization, all giving us greater visibility. So I would say in
Okay,
recent time,
nice.
these two things are kind of like really putting us out there in a sense. And yeah, I mean, constant
Nice.
posting, constant
Mm-hmm.
word of mouth, basically.
Mm-hmm. Nice. That's awesome. Good for you.
Yeah,
Good for you. Now I'm
thank you.
curious, in terms of SysCode, how many students, so to speak, have you had in the organization?
So, do you mean employees as in interns working for SisCode or
Uh, Great
beneficiaries?
question. Yeah, great question. I'd say both, if you can
Okay,
even segment them off.
so with interns, I would say we've had a lot. I would say probably about
Mm-hmm.
almost 40 interns have come through our doors. So
Amazing.
over this 2 year period, we've had interns coming in, handling different things for different periods.
Mm-hmm.
And, Some come in short periods, they move on, others come in. So we are constantly having interns coming through because we've built a strong network of university students. We currently have like a database of over 1,000 university students in Ghana. So it's relatively
Mm-hmm.
easy for us to be able to get students to apply to want to work with us. So in
Yeah.
terms of employees or like interns who are working with organizations, we're almost 40. But in terms of beneficiaries, I would say probably almost 200. So we have the weekend, no, not even 200, I'll say probably about 500. So we have
Wow.
a weekend boot camp, and every
Mm-hmm.
weekend we have girls coming, an average number of about 30 girls coming. And we've been doing this for about 8 months. But it's
Wow.
not good. It's not static. It's not the same set of girls who are always
Right,
coming. So
right.
new students
So you have a
coming,
fresh
they drop.
set every
It keeps
weekend.
yeah, it keeps, again recycled. So I'll say
Oh, I love
if
that.
I'm not exaggerating, about 500, you know, pupils or students have passed through
Mm-hmm.
the program since we started. It's almost a year now. So
That's incredible. And I
yeah,
mean, I'm even just thinking about that number, right? Like 500 kids where
yeah,
you're
yeah,
planting seeds where
yeah,
potentially they can move into the tech space in the future. I
yeah,
think that's
yeah,
amazing. And on top of everything else, they're based in Ghana. It's
yeah,
not like they're based in the US, Canada,
yeah,
UK. Like these are
yeah,
Ghanaian children.
yeah,
Um, yeah, looking forward to potentially starting a tech career, which is
yeah,
incredible.
yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So,
Thank you.
with that, for someone that does, let's say they're not based in Ghana, they may have children themselves that are a little bit younger. Like, what would you recommend for someone looking to get into the tech space?
So for
Whether it's
the
a parent trying to plant those seeds, or even if it's someone themselves, they're maybe a bit younger and trying to move in, what would you recommend?
Okay, so for a parent, I would say I know most parents complain when their kids are glued to tablets, but in my opinion, I
Mm-hmm.
think it's good if you can get an
Mm-hmm.
educational tablet. So it should be purely
Okay.
educational, where, the child can have access to educational games, um,
Mm-hmm.
educational lessons. So the
Yes.
parent has to imbibe the habit or culture of the child watching educational videos from a young age. So if you can give your child an educational tablet, I would say do that
Yeah.
as a substitute to TV, because
Mm-hmm.
for me, it's okay to have a child who is glued to an educational tablet, because what that does is it allows them to be able to absorb a lot of information, good information,
Mm-hmm.
and sets a
Mm-hmm.
foundation for them from the get-go. Also,
Yeah.
I would encourage that parents should also let their children be part of clubs and societies that are related to
Mm.
technology. So the way parents take their children for, soccer camps, or maybe for girls, maybe they take them for ballet and swimming and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
If you're able to find, let's say, a science club or a STEM club in the
Mm-hmm.
community, and where you can take your child to, mix with other young kids, and they work on science projects together, because maybe they might not be getting
Mm-hmm.
enough time from school. So where they can get specialized science projects depending on what you're interested in, that could
Mm-hmm.
also be a very good way to expose them to technology from a young age. Also,
Yeah.
another thing is if you can also take your child to um, um, excursions, so they call it professional excursions. So maybe
Mm-hmm.
maybe you have a friend or a relative in an organization, let's say IBM or Microsoft or Google or any tech
Mm-hmm.
organization. You can
Yeah.
let your child go and spend a day, depending on the company's policy. You can let your child go and spend
Mm-hmm.
a day, maybe once a month or once a quarter,
Yeah.
however, whatever is permissible by the organization.
Yeah.
The child can go there, and they just being in that environment would ultimately
Mm-hmm.
influence their thinking over time,
Yeah.
and just giving them toys that they that are linked to technology. So anything that they can use to build,
Mm-hmm.
maybe they have a set, a science set or something that they can use to build stuff at home. Um,
Yeah.
I think that if you can afford that too, that's something you can do. And then, and finally,
Nice.
just letting the child have a role model. If more so for
Mm.
females, if you know any females who in tech, you can make that person your child's godmother just automatically.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
they would have genuine interest in the child. And if the child is interested in
Mm-hmm.
technology, if they you realize that the child is gravitating towards technology, you can as a child you can expose them to a lot of field and try to see where their
Yeah.
interests lie. But in the event that the child is
Mm-hmm.
interested in technology, then once they have a role model from a young age, this person, the child will always have someone to look up to in terms of, okay,
Right.
Auntie Stella is a software developer and I like Auntie Stella's hair. Sometimes that's all it takes. Just because a
Yeah,
child
it's true. It's true.
likes Auntie Stella's hair, she wants to be like
Mm-hmm.
Auntie Stella. So whatever
Yeah,
Auntie Stella
yeah.
has done, anything Auntie Stella tells her, she will do. And it will just help
Mm-hmm.
her, develop. For a
Yeah,
young
kids
person,
kids are so easy to please. I agree. I
definitely.
agree.
For a
Mm-hmm.
young person, I would say the things I've described, but with more intensity.
Yeah.
So maybe
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
with more intention, with more structure, and
Yeah.
trying to expose the child. If the child is interested in the space. So if the child is interested in the space,
Mm-hmm.
then there's more intensity, there's more structure, putting the child on more programs that are related to technology and helping them sort of develop their niche, the area of technology that they might be wanting to solve going in the long run.
Mm-hmm.
And then the child will be able to,
Mm-hmm.
or the young person will be able to develop themselves over time and just kind of navigate and
Okay.
find their way.
Nice, nice. All very good suggestions. And one thing that really stood out to me is the fact that the role model portion, right? I think it's so important to see people in that space doing these things because sometimes it's not necessarily that the kid has it at the forefront of their mind in terms of what it is that they want to do. But a lot of times we just model what our parents do. We see them do something and we're like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. That's what I'm going to do. Or they're encouraging us to do certain things, right? Whether it's like getting into engineering, as we know as Africans, it's always like doctor, lawyer, those type of things. But yeah, I feel like having role models is really important and can be very helpful for a kid's future. Being able to see someone doing exactly that, because kids are going to be kids, right? Like their interests are very much in relation to what they like at that given time, what's exciting at that moment. But being able to have that and plant those seeds over time as they grow up, they see someone in that space, I think is very important. So I completely agree with that. So, in the next 5 years, I want to ask you two questions because at the beginning of the episode, you mentioned that you yourself, you're currently doing your PhD, which is amazing, by the way. So,
Thank you.
congratulations on that. But
Thank
you
you.
also see yourself moving into the tech space. So, where do you see yourself landing? And yeah, where within tech would you want to be?
So currently, I'm very big on AI, just because I feel
Nice.
like even though AI seems like, it could be a threat to the workforce in general, and maybe even
Mm-hmm.
certain schools of thought say it could be an existential threat. At the moment, I feel
Mm-hmm.
like it's a productivity enabler, right? And for someone like myself who's
Mm-hmm.
doing like juggling so many things, it's always great to have kind of like a co-pilot or a lending hand that is able to help you
Yes.
maximize your output. And I'm greatly
Mm-hmm.
leveraging AI in that capacity. So
Mm-hmm.
that has really piqued my interest in recent time, and I'm constantly using all these AI tools. I'm constantly following the space and trying to be informed on
Mm-hmm.
what are the latest technological advancements in AI. So
Yeah.
I could see myself being in AI governance. I could see myself being in prompt engineering. Also,
Mm-hmm.
I have a strong business background. So
Mm-hmm.
business analytics is also another area that I kind of find very interesting. And I'm also considering probably
Okay.
starting a career immediately. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I could also and do product management, because
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be deploying a project and a product in the next, let's say, 9 months. And I'm sort of going
Yeah.
to be responsible from end to end. We just recently, SisCode
Mm-hmm.
recently got we sort of finalizing the terms and conditions for uh, a project where we will be building like an e-learning platform, and we are being funded to do that.
Nice.
So if that is successful by the end of the period, I would have gotten really like
Mm-hmm.
relevant experience in product management, project and product
Oh,
management.
100%.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe even UX research. So because again, because of my strong research background, I could also be working in UX research. So I would,
Yeah.
for me, the
Yeah.
paths are many. It just really depends on
Mm-hmm.
what is more what is more immediate in terms of what is
Yes.
available. But I see that in a 5 year period,
100%.
I see that in a 5 year
Mm-hmm.
period, things could easily change or evolve, but not
Yeah.
too far off from what my interests or skills, where my interests or
Yeah.
skills
Kind of
lie.
within
Yeah,
the realm.
yeah,
Yeah, I love
yeah,
that. And you know what's so interesting? Because building your own product, so building an application, working on technology exposes you to every area of technology.
yeah,
And usually, like when I started my product management journey, one of the things people said, if you don't have like direct PM experience, build something because building something will teach you all aspects of the business. Being able to understand the user's needs at the end with the product management portion. Who are you building this for? Future proofing and ensure that, of course, you're not underestimating the need that's there. Of course, constantly talking to your users, iterating on that product, getting that research, that feedback is exactly what a UX researcher does, right? So they're boots on the ground, making sure that whatever is getting built out actually makes sense in the end and that you're taking that feedback and converting it. So there's just so many different paths that you can take, which is super exciting. And I completely agree with you. It's one of those things. It's kind of like go for the low hanging fruit, whatever makes sense and whatever is available to you. And if that's something you're excited about, is definitely the way to go. But I find, yeah, working on your own piece of technology, it's a lot of work. It takes a lot of effort, but it exposes you to pretty much almost every aspect of the business. I mean, I know some founders that are like salespeople, customer service agents, software developers, product managers.
social
It's
media,
like they
like
wear all the hats.
full stack, full stack.
Full stack, yeah. Like that's an understatement, right?
Yeah.
So that's super exciting. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing that come to fruition and even where you end up. I mean, it's quite incredible what you have even done so far, but I know you're only scratching the surface. So the future is going to be exciting. So how about for SysCodes? What does that look like in the next 5 years? Where do you see yourselves?
So with SisCode, I I do believe that I might, step back a bit at some point.
Okay.
Maybe I
Yeah.
might take up a board role. But I do believe that I would definitely want to hand over to a female CEO, because that
Mm-hmm.
would just make it easier for, the organization to be able to blossom because there are a lot of opportunities
Mm-hmm.
for female, you know, C-suite executives who are running,
Mm-hmm.
or founders or co-founders who are running organizations. Like there's a lot of support. So
Mm-hmm.
I foresee myself probably being on the board, but then allowing like, female to kind of, take it further,
Mm-hmm.
than
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
where it
Grow
is at the
it.
moment. Yeah. But I
Mm-hmm.
mean
Nice. That's very exciting.
the ultimate goal is to impact as many lives as we possibly can. And I think
Mm-hmm.
we are doing this at a very rapid rate, and I'm just really hoping that
Yeah.
we have a greater multiplier as the years go by.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Ah, that's awesome. So, in saying all of that, if you could look back, is there anything you'd do different, even with your own personal career, with SysCode, anything like that?
Um, yes, and no. So in terms of yes, I would say, maybe from the beginning, I allowed the frustrations to get the best of me because it was like
Mm-hmm.
extremely challenging. And I would say
Yeah.
certain relationships I could have managed better than I did then, but I would say I was inexperienced, and it's all part of the learning experience. So in terms of,
Mm-hmm.
like I said, this line of work is greatly dependent on relationships. So that's something
Mm-hmm.
maybe if I could do differently, um, I would probably have done. And maybe to from the get-go, I probably could have like tried to find a co-founder, female co-founder, who would, sort of work so that it kind of gives me, even though the, I'll say over time, the interns we've worked with, the representation is about 70-30. So I've worked with about 70% females as interns,
Mm,
who have given me
mm-hmm.
valuable feedback over the period. I would say
Mm,
for them, because
mm-hmm.
they are not exactly C-suite individuals in the organization, the
Mm-hmm.
feedback is different or experience is different as compared to if, let's say, I had like a C-suite person or co-founder from the get-go who's probably female and
Yeah.
maybe a bit more experienced to also help me navigate and approach things. For maybe because I'm working with females, they could also help give me perspective that I might not have
Yeah.
by virtue of the fact that I'm male. So probably that's something that I could have done differently. And then yeah, from the beginning too, I wasn't too confident because it was the first time I was doing this. I wasn't too sure about myself, and I
Mm-hmm.
didn't have a lot of clarity. So I was not bold to be able to speak up because I'm like, I was
Mm-hmm.
scared that people will find a lot of faults with what I was doing. But then I think that was a disservice to myself because when people find
Yeah.
faults, the things that they draw your attention to, you go back, reflect, and then try to find solutions. And that's how you improve.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you're able to improve very quickly. So
Mm-hmm.
instead of not speaking up, because I had a lot of great opportunities that I could have spoken up to create greater awareness and build more relationships with other, like stakeholders who could have influenced the
Mm-hmm.
course and direction of SisCode, right? But I was oftentimes too timid and shy about it. Um, but yeah, I mean that has changed greatly. So yeah, I would
Okay.
say those are some of the examples of things that I would have done differently.
Okay. Okay. Nice. Nice. And for those who would love to support SisCode, how can we support you?
So we have a donation tab on our website, which is
Okay. Awesome.
www.siscode is SISCODEGH.com. And we
Mm-hmm.
have a donation tab. So once you go there, um, all the various ways you could support us are available. Also, we'll
Perfect.
be launching a GoFundMe campaign very soon. The primary school we work with, even though we provided some computers like back in the day, but over time those computers are not in good current condition. So we are trying to sort of like
Mm-hmm.
revamp the entire lab since we've gotten a lot of interest from the young girls. When we started the program, there wasn't too
Yeah.
much interest, but like the interest has grown significantly, and we are having a lot of girls turn up
Mm-hmm.
week in, week out. So there's a need for us to sort of get more computers for the lab, and
Makes
yeah,
sense.
so we are just wrapping up in terms of our GoFundMe campaign, which we'll be publishing on our website. So it will be under donation area. So anyone who
Okay.
visits and wishes to support us can do so through that.
Okay, perfect. I'll definitely include all of that information in the show notes for anyone interested in supporting SysCode. I strongly suggest supporting. It's an amazing organization. They're doing some really cool things. And like I always say, we need more women in technology. Women just do it better, I'm sorry to say, but
I
that's the
agree.
reality.
I concur greatly.
And yes, yes, exactly. So, yeah, I'm just thank you so much for even involving me when I was down in Ghana and having me a part of SysCode. I mean, although it was short, what I got to see was truly incredible. The people I got to connect with, I definitely feel are lifelong connections. I still talk to them now. And yeah, I look forward to what's in store for the future. So next time I'm in Ghana, we're definitely going to be connecting. And yeah, I just look forward to, I wish you all the best in the future. I know there's nothing but good things coming your way,
Thank
and
you.
it's going to be really exciting to see it grow and develop. So hopefully in the future I can have you back and you'll tell us how big it is and all the success stories, all that fun stuff. I can't wait to hear more.
Thank you so much for having me. And yeah, I mean, I really appreciate you giving the platform to share the work we're doing. And it's always great to be able to
Of
get
course.
others to hear about it because, you know, you might be doing all the great work, but if nobody knows, there's only so
Yeah,
far you can go. So, I mean, I'm very
exactly.
appreciative of
Exactly.
opportunities like this to share some of our experiences so far. So yeah, I really appreciate it and
Yeah,
thank you so
it's
much.
Yeah, of course. It's truly my pleasure, I must say. So thank you so much for attending today. And for everyone listening, once again, this is the Technically Yes podcast. I'm your host, Stella, and look forward to speaking with you guys next week. Take care.
All right. Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning into the Technically Yes podcast. If you liked today's episode, rate this podcast 5 stars on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. And if you would like to get in touch with me, reach out to me on Instagram at the Tech Yes Pod, and find me and subscribe on YouTube by looking at the Technically Yes podcast. Thanks again, and chat to you guys next week.